this. I really believe there is a purpose to our sensitivity and that we are part of this new wave of consciousness. But because of how we are made in the world we're in, it's paradoxical, but we are both warriors and victims. And we go from feeling like one to the other, from one to the other. And sometimes, like I said, we're in the middle and we're just kind of paralyzed. It's like, am I this warrior and it's time for me to go into the world and reveal myself? Or am I this victim that the world is just like pushing down on and there's just no way to find a breath? We are meant to feel all this. We are meant to be this piece of the population at this moment in time who feel this discordance deeply and who stay there and don't give up and keep feeling it, because we are the bridge. We are here to bridge the gap between a time of less awareness to a time of more consciousness. We are here to move humanity just by our awareness and our sensitivity and our feelings towards something that is more real. Hello, beautiful. How are you doing today? So I've got this fancy little alcove here because it's very windy today and it makes it look like I'm in a tropical setting, which I'm not. But today I want to talk about why so many people these days seek counseling, therapy, why there is such a proliferation of coaches, and why it seems that people need so much help just to be able to figure out their lives and make some sense out of things. And the reason that I'm bringing this up today is because in the last few weeks I've been experiencing some intense emotions and reactions and triggers and confusion and being kind of at a loss in some areas of my life and finding that I'm really needing help to be able to sort out more of the workings of my neurodivergent brain. And yesterday when I was talking with my mom and sharing that with her, sometimes with a lot of effusive emotion and tears, there's some really good stuff that came out of my conversation. And I was telling my mom how most people I know or that I listen to or whatever, they all have therapists and counselors and coaches in their lives. And she was saying, what is wrong with the world today that so many people need to seek help in order to just figure out their lives or just to find some happiness or some peace? And I thought about her question for a moment, agreeing sort of, but then something else was telling me, but there is more to it than this. And it's true that there is kind of a collective scream right now. And it's a collective scream of distress, but it is also, what I was thinking, a collective scream for evolution. And I went on to say that for some part of humans' evolution, it was about survival. Then, in the 50s, it was about settling and having a house and being a certain way. Then it became acquiring more things for comfort. Then it became, about productivity. Then it became about electronic revolution or whatever. And throughout these periods, there was mostly like an acceptance of this is how things are. And people in general accepted that this is how it was. And there was not so much of a deep questioning in the general population. But that, I will say, robotic or disconnected state is no longer acceptable for a lot of us in the world. And in fact, the world, although there's a lot of messiness in the world, but it's not that the world is falling apart, it's that we are awakening. And in a way, the world falling apart is prompting our awakening. And those of us who are highly sensitive, empaths, some kind of neurodivergent, those of us who are struggling and conflicted with how the world is supposed to be and it just doesn't jive with us, I think that we are like the new wave. We are the one tasked with bringing a new consciousness. And included in that are growing pains. We're in the wilderness right now, and we're doing the bushwhacking. And that involves getting scratched and bloodied and bruised while we're making headway. Because even though sometimes we feel like we're just stuck in the struggle, our desire for deeper understanding and evolving from that place and bringing that forth to the world and to our own lives is evolution. We are making progress. I think as sensitives from the time we were born, we have been feeling this clash deeply between what was and what is becoming. And sometimes the discordance can make us feel paralyzed or just very anxious and sometimes depressed. And it is because of the nature of who we are and what we are here to do. I don't know if you've ever felt that or said that to yourself or maybe even out loud, but that feeling of being too pure for this world. And I know it makes it sound like too oop-to-do, right? Saying we're too pure, but there is something to that. Maybe it's not quite the right word, but there is something to that our sensitivity is too fine, too pure, that it clashes with everything that is superficial around us. We see that effect and the things that are done just because, and it doesn't work with us. It makes us very upset without quite being able to put the finger on what do we do about it. And that thing of feeling separate and like we're aliens and that we don't fit in, I can remember, and I share that in my book, that when I was in kindergarten, when it was playtime, I would just stand there at the front of the class and look at all the kids going to the coffers there with all the toys and pulling things out and starting to play and making make-believe. And I was looking at them like, what are they doing? How can they do that? Don't they know it's not real? It doesn't make sense. And from that early on, I felt very disconnected and I definitely didn't fit in. And I think a lot of us feel that way from a very young age. So I think it's not that we're too pure, it's that we are closer to the essence of what it is to be a human being. Later in life, I remember like decades of just feeling so disappointed in human beings. And in a way, I see beautiful people, but I am also disappointed still in humanity. And when we feel that disappointment in human beings and in the world in general, it leads to struggle, it leads to depression, and it leads to us isolating ourselves because it's just too much. And it's interesting because, like I was saying before, I really believe there is a purpose to our sensitivity and that we are part of this new wave of consciousness. But because of how we are made in the world we're in, it's paradoxical, but we are both warriors and victims. And we go from feeling like one to the other, from one to the other. And sometimes, like I said, we're in the middle and we're just kind of paralyzed. It's like, am I this warrior and it's time for me to go into the world and reveal myself? Or am I this victim that the world is just like pushing down on and there's just no way to find a breath? But I do believe that when we feel it's our time to gather our courage and to stand for who we are and what we are, we can hold our sensitivity like a torch and be torch bearers and guides, bringing more light to a world that desperately needs to be more connected to the essence of the truth of who we are. And also when I was talking with my mom, for a while I felt like conflicted between my belief in the power of the mind, the power of meditation, manifestation practices, the power of positive thinking and surrendering to God. It seemed like it conflicted with getting counseling. But then I understood that by getting help to understand myself better would remove debris and obstacles that are standing between me and the truer essence of who I am. And the more I am connected to and live as the truth of who I am, the deeper my connection to God is. Because at the core of who I am, at the core of who we are, is God. So the more work that we do to peel away and remove anything that is in the way of our true essence, we actually deepen our relationship with God, because God is about the truth of who we are. So the takeaway from this is, my dear neurodivergent family, empaths, sensitives, people who struggle and find life hard because it is so far from being authentic, we are right where we belong. We are meant to feel all this. We are meant to be this piece of the population at this moment in time who feel this discordance deeply and who stay there and don't give up and keep feeling it, because we are the bridge. We are here to bridge the gap between a time of less awareness to a time of more consciousness. We are here to move humanity just by our awareness and our sensitivity and our feelings towards something that is more real. So part of our job is to feel. Part of our job is to understand ourselves so that we get even closer to our essence. Part of our job is not to give up and to absolutely, unapologetically be who we are, knowing that our deep feelings and awareness have purpose. We were placed here to be the containers, to be the holders, to be like the underpinning or the pillars that will hold the bridge of what was and what is to be. So let's all get therapy and coaches and counseling, because man, it's complicated and our minds can take us to places that are difficult, but there are people that can help us, because there's a deep scientific understanding of how our brain works. And I want to go and learn more so that I am not so disheartened by the ups and downs of my mind and the hyper-focused productivity to executive dysfunction and these things that I go through. And getting more understanding leads to more clarity and leads to more of the truth of who we are and more to fulfilling the role of why we are here. If you enjoyed these videos, if you think there is value, please share them. Tell your friends, like the videos, and let's spread the word. Okay? We need each other. Bye. I love you.